WeenCast, a Ween podcast with Rory Gibbons and Shane Prutzky.
Hey, what's up? This is Shane.
This is Rory.
And this is WeenCast. And we welcome you.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome everybody. We are going to talk about a current show that both of us were lucky enough to get to. One from this sort of winter batch of shows, which was last Friday, December 14th, 2018, at the Metropolitan Opera House in Philadelphia. This is one
Philly
that we
style, bitches.
Yeah, Philly style again. You know, we love it. This is one that we had found out about. It was late summer, early fall, because I remember I was on vacation down at the Jersey Shore for the week, and I think Rory, you had found out about it and had informed me. So, how did you find out about this show going down?
Yeah, so, I don't remember exactly when it was either, I guess, but I know it was either late August or early September, because I was had my new job. But anyway, yeah, so my wife just happened to get a alert on her phone that was like a music article about the reopening of the Philadelphia Metropolitan Opera House. And she was like, she first saw like, oh, Dylan's going to be, opening it up. And immediately was like, oh, we got to get tickets for Dylan opening up, the Metropolitan Opera House in Philly. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then she looked in for more information and saw that Weezer was the next night. And it was like, well, shit, like, this keeps getting better. And then when she saw Ween was the third act, it was like, all due respect, Dylan and Weezer, we got to go see Ween.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so it was like a no-brainer. We love Philadelphia. Amy and I lived there for 8 years. So any chance to go back, we always, it's a great opportunity to go back. So we actually made a whole weekend of it. But when we saw that it was like, opening up a historic building, reopening a historic building, like a major landmark that had been underutilized in Philly, and an opportunity to support that and see Ween, it was just like a no-brainer. So,
yeah,
hell yeah.
And I remember you had told me about it, and and then I went online and saw what was going on and everything, and I thought it was going to be really tough to get tickets because I was like, oh man, this is going to sell out like immediately, like Ween in Philly right before Christmas, like this is going to be crazy. There's no way we're going to be able to get tickets. But we actually did. I think you had gotten some from the pre-sale.
Yeah, Amy got on the pre-sale 30 seconds after it started.
Right.
So she was able to get really good tickets down in the double end. I forget what actual. I don't have the ticket in front of me. Shame on me. But we were down on the floor and really fantastic seats for sure for the pre-sale.
Yeah, I think
double N.
I think I had gotten from what I remember. I think I was kind of shut out of the official pre-sale, but someone on like one of the Facebook groups had given me like a Ticketmaster like pre-sale password or something. I know I had bought. I bought 2 tickets, one for our friend Mike, who agreed to go to the show with us as well and wanted to go, and one for myself. And I know I had just gotten them straight from Ticketmaster, but I think it was like the second day, like the day after the regular pre-sale. So I was lucky to sort of like sneak in there. I'm pretty sure it was still like a day or so before they went on sale to the general public.
Yeah.
So I kind of snuck in there, and our tickets were for like the back right, and yours were for sort of like the front left of the floor on the
Yeah, not like completely all the way up, but definitely like, within like, I mean double N, so like however many
right
rows that is.
Yeah, so our seats were supposed to be for the other side and towards a little bit more towards the back.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in a second. So, like you had said, you guys had kind of made like a weekend out of it, which is a great idea to do for a Philadelphia trip.
Yeah, we got a hotel downtown and we're already there, so we were just Amy and I were just bouncing around Philadelphia, just checking stuff out and eating it. We had a whole food list of places to go, and we were just doing our thing. So Amy actually got tickets for her friends Jeff and Amanda, who we met at the venue. But yeah, and then we also met up with our friend Mike, who came.
Yeah, Mike
he
and
came
I.
separate.
Yeah, Mike and I couldn't come down together because he had something else to do. Like the next day, he had to like leave town right away, and I had to get back. I've got 3 kids. We just had our third, so I can't be making a weekend out of it anymore, unfortunately. So I had to get back. So we had to come down separately, but we had sort of planned on, okay, let's at least grab dinner or something ahead of time. So you had given us the idea of Johnny Brenda's, which is a really cool place down in Center City. And
It's in Fishtown.
Yeah, and we had seen. It was funny because as soon as I got there, I was like, "Oh, this is the place we saw Aaron by himself when he was doing the Freeman, Freeman tour." When he released that album, we had seen a show of him and his band at Johnny Brenda's. So that's a really cool place.
Yeah, at the one of the stoops right outside there, I shook Aaron's hand and said, "The pleasure's all mine."
Yeah, he was like out like smoking cigarettes. We came past there that day, and we were going somewhere else to like get dinner before the show, and we walked right past him, and it was just
Interstate
like,
Draft House.
we gotta bug him and say hello, but we were cool about it. But yeah, that was a fun little tidbit there that we got to see him before the show that night and say hello to him, and he was really nice to us.
Yeah, so that was at Johnny Brenda's, but yeah, so we met up at Johnny Brenda's ahead of time, which was ideally placed for me because I always love using SEPTA when I'm in Philly. So we jumped on the old time trolley that goes down Girard, and then we met up with Mike at Broad Street, right where we got off the trolley, which was less than a block, or whatever, like a block or less from the venue. I have to look at a map to be exactly sure, but it was like really close. And so yeah, I think it was raining, or the rain was holding off. What was that?
Yeah, I think the rain had held off for a little bit there while we were hopping around between Johnny Brenda's and the and going into the venue. So that was nice. We met up with Jeff, who you guys had the tickets for, Jeff and his wife. Yeah. And it was really cool because they had the whole street in front of the Opera House was like blocked off. So it was like, oh, okay, cool.
Totally.
It was like, all right, this is great. Like, no crowding around or no having to like cross the busy street or anything. And they had like a ragtime band playing, like an old fashioned band.
Well, Mummers. It was the Mummers, dude. It was the Mummers.
Oh, okay. It was like a Mummers band. Do you think those guys were actually Mummers?
Someone out there in internet world totally confirm that if you can. But I'm pretty sure those are Mummers.
It was a Mummers-esque.
I'm pretty sure it was a Mummers thing.
Yeah, it was a Mummers-esque.
Well, think about it, dude.
Band.
It's December, so it's the holidays, and the Mummers are getting ready. So
yeah, that's
they'll be out and about.
They'll be out and about.
So I'm pretty sure those
New
are
Year's.
Mummers, and it's Philly style. That's immediately what I thought because it's Philly style. And
Yeah.
if you don't know what the Mummers are, then you should just go online and Google it because I don't want to spend time to explain that craziness.
It's a Philly thing. It's a Philly thing.
But yeah, dude. Anyway, yeah, the band. It was like a brass band thing playing whatever, jazzy music and just having a good time. And And it was, so it was a great atmosphere going in there. That was the first thing I noticed about going in.
Yeah.
But before we actually get to that, we should talk a little bit about the venue. So the Metropolitan Opera House, the Philadelphia Metropolitan Opera House, is a badass venue.
Yeah.
It was really impressive. So apparently was built back in like 1908, and so it's a historic building. It's been a historic building for decades, but it was built in 1908 as the Philadelphia Opera House, and when it was built, it was the largest theater of its kind. So all those old school, like old-timey looking theaters that you go to, like I went to see Ween in a show in San Francisco, and that was like it was like a cool old-timey type theater, like these opera houses. This was like the biggest one like ever made, you know, and that's kind of cool. And so it seats, I think, more than 4,000 people, and so it was definitely a large crowd.
Yeah.
Shane, I was trying to think, like, when would we have seen Ween with a bigger crowd? Was actually something. So think about that for a minute as I finish this description. But yeah, so it's like this old school building, and for decades it was used for like opera and shit, and then like movie theaters and sports venues and all kinds of stuff. I think by the 70s and 80s or whatever, it started like going to shit. And then it was like vacant for several years in like the late 80s and 90s. And then this like church came in and like kind of was in there. But yeah, and then they do the renovations just this last year. And so this was the third show on their grand reopening tour. So it was awesome to be in there. Like, so it was still like kind of new, like and in terms of being like renovated, like fresh and clean kind of.
Yeah, and you sort of got the impression of like a theater crowd and a theater like staff, rather than like a regular like concert staff. Like when we went in, there was just like a little table with like a black cloth over it where they were serving the drinks, and it was just a short list of you know, these are the things we have to drink. And it was like going to a theater. I mean, it really was. It was not like a concert venue per se. It was more of like something where you would go and you would have like your theater subscription, and you get to see these nights of the Philadelphia Symphony Orchestra or whatever's going to. It was that kind of place. I mean, it really felt that way. You know?
And that was what's interesting is sometimes my experience is like some theaters like that, it kind of gives it a downer like attitude a little bit, because it's not quite a Ween thing or a Ween crowd. But like I felt like this show at the Met had a really great energy, and the crowd was great. I didn't think that the theater setting hurt the crowd at all.
No.
I think I mean, definitely people were somewhat able to be in like the aisles and stuff, and everyone was standing anyway. But yeah, it has like 4 levels, and like must be like 150-foot tall like ceiling or something crazy.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, when we were
that's like a massive space.
Yeah, when we were out in the lobby, I had sort of like peeked my head in down on the first level before we went in, and it, you know, at first glance it didn't really look that big. And I asked one of the ladies who was working, you know, how many people does this theater hold? And she said somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000. So when you reading that description, that would fit, you know, somewhere in that vicinity between 3,000 and 4,000. And I was like, really, that many? Because it didn't really look that big to me at first glance, at least not the bottom floor. And she was like, well, you got to remember, there's like 4 floors to this theater. And I was like, oh, you know, so if the bottom floor holds, you know, 1,000 people or 1,500 people or, you know, whatever, and then the other floors combined all those together. So, I mean, it really was an impressive place, you know?
Yeah, yes, for sure. Very impressive. I got a panorama picture. Maybe we can try to put that online or wherever the heck.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get in on just a regular picture to like really impress like how cool the venue is. So it's kind of like you really got to go. You should go see a show there. That's what I would say, and I would leave it there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go see a show there.
Yeah, we would
it's
definitely.
A great venue.
We would definitely recommend, seeing something there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You had
so
we got to look at the merch.
Yeah, yeah, so I got a poster, which was cool. I went and got the signed poster because this whole trip for us, it was kind of like, a Christmas gift for us, the whole thing. So I figured we, treat yourself.
Yeah, good for you.
And so we got ourselves the poster, and it's cool. It's almost like a post-apocalyptic like ruin of a city, and there's like a ruined Ferris wheel, and like maybe that's the because it could be the Metropolitan Opera building actually in the back, and there's like some wolves or dogs or something like roaming about. So it's pretty cool vibe, and I thought it was all signed by all of them, and there was only a few left. So I was like, dude, I'm gonna grab that. So that was cool.
Yeah, good for you, man.
And you have your so you had a situation with you had to be pulled aside for your tickets, as I recall.
Okay, so so here's what happened. So we had sort of like split up as we were like going inside the building from the street to the inside, where they make you take your stuff out of your pockets and go through the metal detector and then show them your ticket. So it was Mike and I, because we both had the same tickets. So we go through the metal detector, and I have my ticket, and I show the lady, and she scans it with a little thing, and there must have been some kind of thing on the machine that said, take this person to the box office. And Mike, who's right next to me, has the same, kind of ticket that I do. I had just separated them, like, right before we went in. I had the 2 tickets plus the little, like, receipt that gets printed out with the tickets. I had taken that whole thing in my pocket in the original envelope. So he's right next to me, and there's a gentleman doing the same thing to him. Scans his ticket, and, the gentleman who was scanning his ticket must have gotten the same thing and saw this happen to me and was like, oh, this guy too. So this lady starts walking us over to the box office, which is on like the far right side as you're coming in to the theater. It's all the way on the right. So, of course, like in my mind, I go straight into like panic mode. And I'm like, oh my God, there's a problem with the tickets. What's going on? Like I said, I had bought the tickets directly from Ticketmaster. So it's not like they came from StubHub or could have been like phonies or anything. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm glad I have my original receipt that was printed out with my tickets. You don't know what to think. So I even said to the lady as we're walking over, I'm like, is there some kind of problem, ma'am? And she said, well, we're going to find out. So, yeah, it's like, okay, like, what does that mean? So we go over to the box office. As we're getting up there, there's a couple of people who I think had just walked in off the street, and they were like shut away. They were like shut down. They're like, no, we're sorry. We don't have anything. We can't give you anything. It's completely sold out. So I guess the show was sold out, which is no, surprise there. I'm sure it was close to selling out, within a few days before the show anyway, but so
yeah, I know that morning of I saw a couple tickets still available, but
okay, yeah, so it was probably right down to the wire then, but at the time, like right before the show like that, it was definitely sold out. So the lady who had walked us over there said, this came up on my machine that I'm supposed to give these guys to you, and there was a man and a woman behind the desk at the box office. They asked my name, and I gave them my name. And then they looked at Mike, and they're like, oh, you two? What's your name? And Mike just kind of pointed to me, and they're like, oh, you guys are together. And we said yes. So I gave them my name. They look through a little stack of envelopes, and they pull one out, and they're like, oh, here you are. And we're like, what? What do you mean? And the guy says to us, so this show went on sale before this building was completed, so the seating chart wasn't finalized, and the tickets that you bought, those seats don't really exist. So we're giving you an upgrade, right? The girl hands me the envelope with 2 like fresh tickets in it, and she's like, these are like amazing seats. These are like amazing tickets. So we're like, oh, okay, you know, and you know, we're just like, well, how much better could they be? Because we're supposed to be down on the floor, you know, on the right hand side. I remembered like where my seats were supposed to be from the seating chart and everything. But I'm thinking, wow, they couldn't be that much better, you know. So we had kind of just went back with you and told you the story about, oh, we got upgraded seats. But I didn't really think that much of it at the time. I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll figure out, you know, where they are or whatever. So I actually have my ticket that I saved here in front of me, okay? And, okay, so your seats were NN, like double N, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So these seats wound up...
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. These seats wound up being DDD, okay? Meaning there is AAA, BBB, CCC, and DDD. They were the fourth row.
Yeah, dude.
And they were number 7 and 8. So when we got down there, like, okay, let's figure out where these seats are, like where these tickets are for. They were the fourth row from the stage, and 7 and 8, which was like right smack dab in the middle. Like right in front of where Jeter's microphone was. I mean, just like amazing seats.
Yeah, dude, you guys were in like, you know, my view, you know, it's like every picture I took, you guys were in, you know. Like it was those kind of seats, you know. I went up to you know, Amy kind of hung back and she was chatting with Jeff and Amanda because they're her friends, and I hadn't seen you and Mike for a while, so I was up like chilling with you guys up front, kind of like, you know, masquerading as like, that's right, I'm up here, you know. Yeah, dude, those are fantastic seats, and there wasn't a big issue with like, you know, a lot of people kind of sneaking up and trying to like, you know, power grab like people's lawfully purchased tickets. So it was like, if you had a good seat, you had a good seat. And like the theater nature of it does excuse me, the theater nature of it does mean that like inherently every seat is a good view, you know, like at least. And so it's just like you get a perfect spot right up front and you know it's already going to be an unobstructed view. It's like, man, what else do you need than to be right in front of Diener?
Yeah. I mean, we really lucked out. I was talking to the people that were right next to us, and they were upgraded too. They were supposed to be up in one of the upper levels, and the girl, I can't remember her name, but she was like, "Yeah, I think these were supposed to be like $450 tickets." Which I mean, I don't know how true that was. I was like, "Oh my god, like, are you serious?" They were the only other people that we had talked to that had said they had gotten an upgrade. There was a couple of other people as we were walking like into the aisle that were like standing in the aisle and hanging out and stuff, that I was like, "Hey, you guys get upgraded? You get upgraded too?" And they were all just kind of like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Maybe I should just shut up." You know, like,
don't ruin it.
Yeah, like especially after she told me they were supposedly that expensive. I'm like, "Oh my god." Like, there are people around me that spent $400 some for these seats. Like, okay, I'm not gonna say, you know, I paid like regular price. You know,
that still sounds a little high to me. But
yeah, I don't know if I believe it was that much.
If that's true, that's true. But that sounds high. Yeah,
I think that was probably a little bit high. But I'm sure that they were supposed to be more expensive than I had paid. So I mean, that was amazing, man. The seats were just incredible. But we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Well, our seats were great, so yours were fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, you guys had good seats anyway. Like, your regular seats were good, you know, and they hit us up with these upgraded tickets, and we were like, all right. You know, not going to turn that down, that's for sure.
I'll take that.
So that was pretty amazing. So should we talk about the beginning of the show?
Yeah, do you want to run down the set list this time?
Yeah, I'd love to. Okay. So the show starts off. Pork Roll, Egg and Cheese, HIV Song, Chocolate Town, Freedom of 76, The Grove, Waving My Dick in the Wind, Object, Nan, Mr. Would You Please Help My Pony, Don't Shit Where You Eat, Voodoo Lady, The Argus, I Got's a Weasel, Boys Club, Never Squeal on the Pusher, Zoloft, Take Me Away, Fiesta, Buckingham Green, Albino Sunburned Girl, Spinal Meningitis, With My Own Bare Hands, Happy Colored Marbles, Exactly Where I'm At, Wayne's Pet Youngin', Touch My Tutor, and then for the encore, Loop De Loop, Ocean Man, Mollusk, and Fluffy.
Nice.
Yeah, so when
it's a set list that keeps going. It was actually a decently long show. Shoot if I'm not remembering, but it was 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think. 2 hours and 25 minutes.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, it was a solid,
So it was a solid length.
Yeah. Even being like up in the front like that, there was a couple of times where like I said to Mike, like, oh, this will be the last song. And then it wasn't. And then it was like, oh, this will be the last song. Like it's...
there were a few times when I was thinking like, man, this is... They got to be getting close to finishing up the main set.
Yeah, so it was a long show, that's for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so you want to now let's go through show highlights, like kind of touch on some of the high points. I thought that there was a great, I thought they were getting along well, and they had a great stage presence and relationship between the Jeter and Diener specifically. I know that if I remember correctly, sort of the terminal show, the first show we saw at the very beginning of the reunion, they weren't really talking that much, and it was kind of different. And it felt like there was a lot more banter, and it occurs to me, it's interesting the difference between doing a podcast like this for a show we just saw like a week ago versus like a show we saw when we do the ones where we saw the show like 15 years ago, and it's like we re-listen to the show and listen to it and write notes sort of. And this is all just coming back from sort of trying to remember the night. So anyone out there, if you think of something that we miss, by all means, tell us about it. Because it's sort of trying to just bring it back from memory. So it'll be interesting, actually, Shane, because we've talked a little bit, but you will, through this conversation, you'll probably bring up things that I miss. But anyway, Jeter is my great granddad worked here. First off, they both were hyping up the theater, and you could tell that they were happy to be there. And I bet from the stage, it had to look pretty darn cool, looking out at all the levels of the crowd and stuff. So
they had said a bunch of times oh, this place is awesome. This is great.
Yeah, they both, and especially Diener, were constantly being this place is awesome, and so. Jeter's they're talking oh, this place is great, it's reopening or whatever, and Jeter's my great granddad worked at the theater in the 20s, and Diener's just what are you talking about, and then he's no, it's true, and they're going back and forth, and I think Diener's finally dude, you're thinking about the Troc. Yeah.
Yeah, he totally brings funny. Out the Trocadero, that's so awesome. He busts out the Trocadero.
Yeah, I just remember that toward the beginning, or maybe right before it started, or maybe right after it started, Diener got a nice Super Bowl champ, shout out for the Eagles, which I thought was funny because he did the same thing when we were at the Pittsburgh show, but that was Pittsburgh Steelers territory, and so now it's he's back in Philly. He's oh, back in Philly or whatever. He's Super Bowl champs, so that was funny. So there was a lot of this banter, and it was kind of throughout the show. And so, pork roll and cheese is to me, that's a great opener, and that's one of the I think that's the only Pure Guava song on this concert, or am I not thinking correctly?
Touch My Tutor.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a couple, but anyway, great way to open the show.
No, pork roll and cheese is from the pod.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. My bad. But yeah, is it the only one from the pod on the at the show?
I was gonna say I think it is the only one from the pod though. Yeah.
So this concert was a lot of the newer stuff. If you think White Pepper, Quebec, and La Cucaracha, and then like side things on Shinolas and whatnot. Like this show has a lot of stuff from that era, but Chocolate Town was awesome. That's a pretty rare song. I think 51 times total, and that's only the third time that I've ever heard that live. So that's cool. So to me, it was a nice highlight from Quebec. Freeman 76 is always great to hear, especially when you're in Philadelphia.
Especially in Philly.
It's kind of like, yeah, it's like a love song for the city, so that's great. Yeah, so definitely a lot of good songs early.
I like how you have in your notes here, the Grove really rocked out, which I definitely agree with that. And some amazing lights. And the Grove was sort of like one of the first examples they broke out, like the,
oh yeah,
the full-on
I
light
got
show.
A picture of that.
Yeah, there's
of
some
the Grove.
Yeah,
and the lights
so just like some really amazing lights
they
that
had
were
some
choreographed.
good like smoke and sort of special effects and stuff.
Yeah, a lot of great smoke too.
A lot of smoke going around. There was a lot. It was like billowing. I mean, it was like billowing like 150 feet high. It was like amazing, like, and all the lights and stuff. And so Object was another highlight for me. It was one of my favorite songs, especially from like La Cucaracha. And I think if I'm remembering correctly, Jeaner like mumbled one of the lines, like he forgot one of the lines in the middle of the song, so I was a little bit off. I always like to hear "Don't Shit Where You Eat," so that's always cool. Voodoo Lady was like a really. I think every time it's out, they play it at almost every show, and I think so. Every time we have a podcast, we like to say, "Oh, Voodoo Lady was jammed out." So fair enough, that's kind of a played out statement. But this was I feel like this one was a really, really jammed out. And I actually thought for a moment, I was like, oh my God, they're gonna go into Prince.
Yeah, I thought so too.
They didn't, but I totally was getting that vibe, and that was just, I think, indicative that it was like extra special.
Yeah.
They rocked out the Argus. I think that's the third time I've ever heard that live.
Yeah, Argus is not too common, and that sounded great. Diener said that he fucked it up afterwards, but I didn't really. I'll have to go back and listen to it again and listen for it.
Yeah, it was a little weird. There were some parts that were a little weird in there. There was a couple songs that I felt like Diener was a little bit off, but he was joking because he'd just gotten like the Dean Ween custom guitar.
Yeah,
Fender. Is that right?
Right before the Argus, he's like, "Oh, I just got this new Fender guitar made specifically for me. On the back, it says Diener." And they're like, "Oh, like Diener's like, oh, that's awesome, man." He's like, "Yeah, like this is great. I finally got my own guitar." And then they play the Argus, and then after that, he's just like, "Oh, I fucked up the Argus. Like my new guitar. Like Era was boasting up my new guitar, and then I fuck up the Argus." That was really funny.
Yeah, that's funny. But the Argus is still awesome. It's one of my favorite Ween songs, and especially from the Quebec of the newer stuff.
Yeah, totally.
And very rare. Boys Club, I think from you and I both, it's the second time ever that we heard it. And here's a little like trivia quiz question for anyone out there. Shane and I at this point have heard it twice out of the 33 times that it's been played. And we heard it the first time and the last time that it was ever played. So the first time it was played, I think it was back in like 2004 in like Washington D.C. at the 830 Club, I believe is the name of the venue.
930 Club.
930 Club. Excuse me, 930 Club. And that was the first time, according to Brown Bass. Shout out to Brown Bass because those guys rock. That guy rocks. And so that's kind of an interesting thing. And that was funny for me, Shane, on that song was that I actually like. After the Argus, I was kind of like, all right, I'll take my a quick pee break, because I think even by the Argus, I was like, they're going to be getting close to the end of this main set, so I was like, oh, I'm going to go take a pee, like now before like there's a lot of people back there, and so Boys Club came on, and it was funny because I was in there in the bathroom peeing, and they were like, it was all full of dudes peeing, and so one dude joked, he was like, "Huh, Boys Club," like we're all hanging out in the bathroom, like it's a boys club, So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I like how
So
they play when they were playing Boys Club. At one point, they were all just playing like little like hand instruments, like it was just a little like clickety clackers and like the little like sticks that you knock together and stuff. So that was cool.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Boys Club is a great one that obviously is a rare one to see live. So, Never Squeal on the Pusher. I remember that as being like a really massive jam, whereas maybe normally it's not a massive jam song, but it was like a huge jam. Like it was like the big jam of the night, basically.
Yeah. Never Squeal on the Pusher was really awesome. They sort of like broke it all down to like nothing, to like silence. Like it just kind of came all the way down to like Claude, just like banging on the drum, and then it was just boom, 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 just down to like silence. And then they sort of like built it back up again. Like, okay, then Claude just started drumming again and just brought it back into... It was a really cool jam.
Yeah, no, it was great. And then it almost kind of went right into Take Me Away a little bit. In a way, I think. And like, not that they were like together, but it was pretty right on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And Take Me Away was a big jam. And I think I was totally at that point thinking, man, they jammed these two songs out. This will be the end of the main set. And it was like, no, it was not.
Yeah, no, it kept on going.
There was still like 5 more songs.
Yeah.
But like Take Me Away was also like a little bit unique because in the middle of it, they're jamming or whatever, and they realize, they probably already knew this, but like, oh, this is sort of like Radar Love, and this is sort of like Roadhouse Blues. So Gina just breaks into those songs just like while the other guys are like doing like the interlude,
Yeah.
And so that was cool. But yeah, and then Fiesta, which normally isn't, it's not one of my favorite songs. Whatever, it's all good. Was cool because I think Glenn in there. I think the song in Brown Bass it's listed as Linus and Lucy tease. It's the Charlie Brown like song, like do 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 do, and there's like a moment in Fiesta where Glenn totally just like teases that he's gonna jam into that, and like, man, you should have jammed into that. But
well, and there was also confetti.
Yes, so at the end of Fiesta it was like a huge mountain of confetti.
And you knew something was going down because before they started the song, Diener was just like, okay, we want to do Fiesta. Okay, hold on a minute. Are we ready? And he like points to the back. And he's just like, are you guys ready back there? Like talking to like...
yeah. He's like, we got something special.
Yeah, like Kurt, like the sound man, and like the whoever is like setting it up. And it's like, oh, something's happening. And I even like turned to Mike and I was like, I don't know. I sense some confetti about to go down here. Some kind of like, something. And sure enough, it looked like there was sort of like a confetti like cannon on each side of the floor, like down on the floor on the left side all the way to the front, and down on the floor to the right side all the way to the front. And they just shot the confetti like from either side of the stage. So that was really cool. And I mean, maybe like New Year's Eve shows a couple of times, but other than that, I've never been under the confetti before. So that was really fun.
Yeah, dude. No, so that made that song stand out. And then some other songs worth mentioning: Albino Sunburn Girl, what is always just great. It's a rare one. Wayne's Pet Youngin'. Wayne's Pet Youngin' was played at the Pittsburgh show, so we had just heard it, but it's still overall pretty rare. So that's cool. And then Touch My Tutor finishes off the opening, the main set, which is just a cool, ridiculous jam song. That's a song. That's one of those songs. I might be a broken record, but like that's one of those cool songs where like you separate the squares out in the audience. When you're like when you're like a Ween head and you're like doing your white guy dance and like jamming out to Touch My Tutor and singing along, and like like someone's like mom and dad are chaperoning and they're like trying to pretend to be into the music that their daughters like brought them to, and it's like Touch My Tutor. And so anyway, so that's always good fun. Um, and the encore. So another interesting part of the show is the creator of SpongeBob SquarePants passed away a few weeks ago. His name is Steven Hillenburg. Rest in peace. Um, but and apparently, and Diener relays some of this at the show, but I think he put out like a Facebook post or some kind of post, social media post about it. But apparently, long story short, the Ween's The Mollusk album was part of the inspiration for SpongeBob SquarePants world, and so in the early days, Ween actually pitched in sort of songs for the guy and stuff for his show, and were supportive, and they had a relationship. And so anyway, so it was kind of neat because they got to share that, and it was a cool moment. But then, and I didn't even know that really until then. It was kind of like a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, I think I may have heard that once before.
May have heard it in passing, kind of.
But I didn't know that he had passed away, and I mean that's a real shame. If you sort of stop and think about it, SpongeBob SquarePants is enormous. I mean, that's huge. I mean, if you want to be a dork about it or whatever you call it, a IP, intellectual property. I mean, that's just an enormous franchise, really. I mean, globally.
Yeah,
I mean, that really.
Yeah, very popular, very well known.
and Ween was sort of at the beginning of it with that SpongeBob album. How true the story about it's based on the record The Mollusk, how true that is. I mean, I guess we'll never really know the truth, but I mean, if he said so, hey, I mean,
yeah,
he
why
not?
About it. I mean, I think it's, and if anyone has something to add to that, I think, but I'm not here to repeat someone else's story. I'm just, that's what he was relaying at the show.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it. Yeah, I certainly. But I mean, it's just kind of it definitely is the truth that Ween was one of the bands that was in on the ground floor, and had music on that album. That was early on in the SpongeBob, life or whatever you want to call it.
It also brings a whole other layer of appreciation to Ween's impact on culture.
Yeah.
Beyond Ween. I mean, you got It's Just Pat. You got SpongeBob SquarePants. You got the movie Road Trip. I mean, you're talking about major cultural epochs here, and so this is just yet another layer of Ween's importance in influencing culture at large.
Well, okay, but it's it is true that Ween did those songs on the on that SpongeBob CD, and it's that was early on in the SpongeBob history.
Yeah,
but
and that was Loop de Loop was the song.
Yeah,
that was directly from SpongeBob, so that was the first one in the encore.
So they came out to do Ocean Man, and you could tell because they came back out from taking their encore break, and then Jeaner has his mandolin ready. So they're definitely going to do Ocean Man, and you can tell because it's the only thing he does with the mandolin. And then they start. Jeaner says a thing about the guy from SpongeBob, and then they just kind of start dicking around, okay, can we pull off Loop de Loop? Jeaner just
they were kind of figuring it out, yeah.
And they did it. You know what I mean? It's not a real great rendition of it, but I mean, for a song like that, hey, you can't you can't complain. I mean, that's it's pretty rare.
Yeah, the third time it's ever been played.
It's insane.
That's crazy, and so that was a lot of fun. It was really cool to see them, and this goes back to what I was saying about how their stage presence and relationship on the stage seemed to be positive. To be able to be kind of pulling off ad libs like this is pretty cool. That gets to the essence of why we love Ween. And so to see them doing that and pulling it off is great.
Yeah.
So, and that was just awesome to hear that live. It was wow, this is so cool, and a tribute to such a, important person in terms of like, people, something people enjoy and love, SpongeBob, It might be weird and dorky, but like people are into it, so it's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then, the continuing tribute is Ocean Man and like the Mollusk, because like those are like the Mollusk songs that like are influencing that. And then the show ends, Fluffy, which I love. I think Fluffy's great. So any haters out there,
and Junior,
Fluffy's awesome.
Yeah,
and
Junior came over to Diener, and you could see that he like whispered something to him, and Diener was totally like, okay, if you want to. And then that's what apparently that's what Junior wanted to do, was Fluffy, and a great rendition.
Good choice.
Of it. Yeah, great choice. Absolutely awesome rendition of Fluffy.
It's just a great way to end the show.
Yeah.
It's just a great way to end the show. Like, you don't have to end the show with the loudest, craziest jam.
Yeah.
You can have a mellow, the sun's coming up in 30 minutes, but I'm just chilling on the porch, Like, you can have that chill, like extended chill jam, for a Fluffy.
But it also, it has like a bit of, like a rock, like, once they get into like the, like the end of it, it's
that's true.
So just a great rendition of it, and that was it. The thing that I'll take away from this show. Again, and I'm not, I don't want to rub it into, to Rory too much or anything, but like, having
when you've got seats that good, I mean,
having the seats where we had them, and I wasn't expecting it. I can't even explain it really. I mean, it was really amazing. I mean, I was kind of thinking about it, and it's like, when have I been this far up front and not had to worry about someone else trying to like take my spot, or having to worry about like a crowd and when you get that far up into like just a regular like general admission type crowd, your spot is never safe when you're
Dude, I have some infamous stories when we eventually get to some of those shows, man.
Yeah,
of
there's a few
people
things,
battling you for your spot.
Yes, there's a few things that stick out in my mind. I think I know exactly what you're thinking of. But it's like, here we've got fourth row right in the middle, and like Mike and I at a few points during the show, we just sat down. We sat down in our seats and just, relaxed, listened to...
Just chillaxed.
Yeah, chillaxed, and it's like, man, like, I'm this far up front. No one can tell me I can't be here. No one can try to take my spot away. I can sit down. I can stand up. I mean, there was a couple of times where I just said to him, like, dude, this is really amazing. Like, just having these seats. And I mean, when you stood up, the stage is kind of low also, so it's like you could see like everything. You could see their feet. You could see, I could tell the songs where Diener was like really like working the guitar, and when he's just like doing it because he just knows it by heart so bad and can do it in his sleep. You could tell when you're like that far up front, And
yeah, dude, you were like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. Like,
and you know what else? One other little tidbit that I'll throw in there. As cool as the people at the Met were, one of the things that they did do that I noticed before the show started, you had those people that are going to try to just like funnel into the front right up against the stage. Their seats are not the front row, but they're going to try to make it seem like they belong there and just kind of, hang around the front in between the first row of seats and the stage. And they totally booted those people the fuck out. Like somebody came in like 10 minutes or so before the show started and just pushed all those people to like the aisles. Like, okay, stand in the aisle then, that kind of thing. Like, if you're not going to go to where you belong, you can stand in the aisle, but you can't stand right in front of these people who are supposed to be in the front row.
Come on.
You know?
Yeah, come on.
Right, because I mean, you're just all of a sudden going to have like a few hundred people trying to get in that little gap in between the front row and the stage. You know what I mean? If you just let that happen, it'll just get out of hand immediately, you know? So I do have to give him credit for that. It's like, I know that that's tough, but it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that they did that. You know, it's...
Yeah, the staff was great. They were very cool.
Yeah, everybody was cool, but, you know, it's like, no, you can't just get right in the front, you know?
Yeah. I have a good amount to say about the show in general. The crowd was cool. It was like people wearing like witch costumes and pirate. I swear there was a pirate, and like, you know, people wearing like, you know, cat ears and like, you know, a lot of people being weird. We had a medical emergency. I hope the girl's okay. We had a medical emergency just a few like seats away from us. That some chick, I think, was just like wasted and maybe just tons of alcohol and maybe a little something else. Who knows? I don't want to guess beyond that. But she was wasted and like basically just like laid out in her chair, and like they came down and like, you know, spread out everyone and got her out of there. And it's like she moved 2 seats and just like sprawled back out.
Oh man!
It was like flipping a switch. Like they got her to get over like two spots, and then like it was like she flipped a switch and just like went back out again on the seat, and like took a while to get her up, but hopefully she's okay. So it was a Philly crowd, so you knew there was going to be some rowdiness, and I think that counteracted the theater aspect, which for some shows in the past where I've seen them in theaters, it's a little more subdued, and so I never felt like the show was subdued. This is an interesting show. Like, if you look at this set list, there's a lot of interesting choices on this set list. It's not like a normal set list. And you're missing some like pretty common songs. I mean, yeah, you got some songs like Voodoo Lady, and that's on like almost every show, I know. But you're missing songs like Roses Are Free. And it's just an interesting set list. I don't know if it's necessarily it's not the most diverse set list. I think it's really heavy with newer material, stuff from White Pepper on. I think it was very heavy on not very light on older stuff. Chocolate and Cheese is always well represented, I suppose. But some rare stuff on this show, man. Loop de Loop. I got to Weasel, Boys Club, Wayne's Pet Youngin', Chocolate Town. Those are all like the Argus, Fluffy. They're not an Albino Sunburn Girl. They're not played a lot. Those songs, you know. So like, so there was a healthy amount.
Yeah, there's some good highlights of the show. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so what I would say is like, that's been a feature of the reunion style of Ween. Is that like, I think they're playing more of these like, you know, sort of trying to think of songs they don't play a lot and like playing them more. And so some of these ones, like, you know, I think the Argus, the last time I heard that live was like 10 years ago. You know, and like, something crazy like that. And like, Chocolate Town, and like, I mean, Wayne's Pet Youngin' we just heard recently. Boys Club, the last time I heard that was like in 2004 or 2005. So like, it's crazy that, you know, so some of these songs were coming out of nowhere, you know, and so I thought that was really cool. But I guess the one, you know, I don't want to be like criticizing, but they definitely sort of flubbed a couple songs. Like Jeaner, definitely there was a couple songs where he didn't quite sing them right, or like he was mumbling in an object, and I think there was another song or two that might have been like that,
there was a couple
where he was a little bit off.
Yeah.
And you know, you see that from Jeaner from time to time, but then it was weird because Diener, I mean, you had mentioned the one where he joked about getting the new guitar, but like on the Argus, it was like it was a little off, and there was a couple other songs where it seemed like it was a little off, and I'm not trying to criticize because, you know, I have so much respect for their music and I love it and all, and that's all good, but it was a little bit weird at times. And I'm just contrasting that with like, it's interesting because overall I thought the vibe was great. And like, I thought they had a great vibe and a great energy, and there was this awesomeness all around, and like a very eclectic, interesting collection of a set list. you know.
Yeah, totally.
And but yet these weird moments that like sort of stuck out a little bit.
Yeah, there was a couple of
weird.
yeah, I agree with that. One of the things about Ween though is basically it's like it doesn't matter how big the show is or where it is or whatever. There's still an element of, hey, we're just fucking around up here. And that's, and it's like, that's part of the fun. You know what I mean? That's part of the fun.
True.
So it's like, you can't expect everything to be, like technically accurate, especially when you're looking for stuff like, the songs that we're talking about, the Argus or, Boys Club or whatever. It's like, okay, well, you hope that they bust out some rare, gem. Well, of course, then it's not going to be, it's not going to be like spot on as if they play it like every night. You know what I mean?
That's true because they're not as common.
Yeah.
And it's all good because that makes the song unique and interesting in any way. So
yeah. So I definitely noticed that as well. And I kind of thought that at a few moments. It's like, man, this is the fucking, this Metropolitan Opera House, and like you're gonna phone it in like that on that number, but like that's part of the fun, and that's part of, that's just part of the band. That's just part of Ween is just like, yeah, it is.
If you want to know more, just look up the story of Pizza Hut wanting them to do an ad for him, and then go from there.
Oh yeah. That's funny.
but I will say this. I will say this. So, Glenn and Claude had a few moments where they got to have these nice solos.
Oh yeah.
Dave didn't really have a chance to shine, man. Dave, I love you, bro. Like, you didn't really get jam much. You didn't really blow it up.
Get some Dave in there, man.
And so it's all
double
good.
Dip.
But
double dip.
I love to see. I love to put the devil horns up for Dave.
Yeah.
Devil Horn Dave, Dave
and
the man. And he didn't really have a chance to shine as much, but yeah, dude, it was a fantastic venue, fantastic night, because it all kind of ended up coming together pretty well, as far as you were able to, even though traffic and all this stuff, you were able to get down there with pretty good time for us to get a bite to eat and get over there and take the trolley, and Mike also got in serendipitously, good timing for everyone, and just a lot of good songs, and weird different songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then and then I guess it was raining a little bit when we got out, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, once we got out of the show, it was kind of raining, and that was kind of a drag.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all, I made it home safe. Everybody made it home safe, and that was, that was a great night.
Yeah, I would say I totally would recommend, whenever it gets to, I don't know if the whole show's up yet, but listen to the show. Because it is a good show, and there's a lot of cool versions of songs. A lot of little with the teasers and stuff. A lot of little treats in this concert. A lot of little treats.
Yeah.
Let me throw you a little loop-de-loop. Yeah. Why don't I do a couple bars of Roadhouse Blues for you? Maybe this is like Charlie Brown. It's like a little bit of here, a little bit of there. It was very, yeah.
Yeah, the little piece in Fiesta, totally, yeah.
Yeah, so that is so cool, and also 1,000 times, if you live in the area, check out the calendar for the Philly Met, because it's an awesome venue.
Yeah,
to go see a show at.
We can recommend it, absolutely. Yeah.
Totally worth. The tickets were more than they might have been at the Troc or something. So. Totally worth it.
Definitely worth it.
To see him there.
Yeah.
And that was also, so I asked that earlier, where do you think we saw a bigger crowd than that?
Well,
if it was truly 3,000 to 4,000 people,
when speaking of Philly shows, when we saw them a couple years ago at Penn's Landing,
you think that was as many people?
I don't know if it was as many, but I mean I would say so. Yes, I mean that had to have been at least 2,000 plus people. I mean that was a big crowd. But other than that,
I don't know the capacity of that place offhand.
Yeah, that's kind of hard
that's
kind of hard to judge because it's just a long, flat outdoor venue. But other than that, it's a good question. A crowd, that size, I don't know. I really don't. A lot of those shows that we've seen in the clubs. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Festival Pier, was that the Festival Pier we were at?
I think so.
Or was
yeah.
that a different one?
Yeah.
It says up to 6,500. So that would be, if that was pretty full. Maybe that was a bigger crowd.
Yeah, that was a big show. It was different though. So I know what you mean. This was that many people just in that one, theater, which when you sort of look around, it doesn't really look like it's all that big. But then you stop and think like, oh my God, there's like 4,000 people in this one big room.
Yeah, there's
now.
several layers. Like you keep going up and up.
Yeah. So
what do you think about the Columbus show we saw a few years back?
That wasn't that many.
Do you remember
people.
That show?
Yeah, I remember that show. That wasn't. That was outdoors, but that probably was like 1,000 people. Maybe like 2,000.
Not to go on a completely different tangent from this show, but it's interesting to think about how I think since the reunion, have some of the shows really have been some of the biggest shows ever. I'd be interesting to go kind of back through all the various big venues they played at. Even shows that I haven't been to. Obviously, like I ain't too proud to beg, but no, it would be cool to see because like it seems to me that some of these are pretty darn big crowds, which is great. It's awesome.
Yeah.
That they're getting so many people to come out for them, and one of the things I also saw at this show was such a wide range, and it's always the case, but yet again, what a wide range of ages of fans. Like there were definitely really young people in there, and then really old, in the whole range.
Yeah, a lot of different people. Yeah.
So that was cool.
So we're not exactly sure what the future holds for 2019. If it's going to be more Ween shows, but if not, it's okay. And
you mean for Ween, not necessarily for us. We'll keep pumping out these podcasts.
Oh yeah, we've got plenty of our legacy shows, so to speak, to talk about. So we're gonna keep doing our show definitely. As far as Ween goes, we don't know what 2019 holds, but honestly, I'm kind of in the mood to see some of like the smaller shows of like the Dean Ween Band or. I'd love to see Aaron do something else on his own. I guess this is kind of blasphemy, but I'd love to see something different. I'd love to see like him and Dave again do something small. You know what I mean? So, there's nothing wrong with those times where they're not, all together. I know it's not Ween, but that stuff is cool too. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the members of Ween do next year, no matter what it is.
Yeah, dude, whatever it is, I will be attempting to go to the show.
Yeah, totally. If I can make it, I'm definitely going to try to make it. It doesn't matter, So I'm curious to see what's going to happen in 2019.
But fear not, we have plenty of our own shows that we've been to before to go through, including the next one. Which is so we're going to be doing a big double podcast feature of the April 20th 2000 show that was on Rutgers campus.
420, baby. That'll be the next episode. 420.
Which we widely consider. That's an ostentatious comment, but we widely consider that to be like the best show that we've ever been to. And there's so many great memories and like songs to talk about and things that happened and like all sorts of stuff. So it's going to be a big double one. But that's what we're looking to be getting to next, folks.
Yes. So since you mentioned that, we'll throw this out there. If anybody has anything that they want to say about the 420 show, April 20th, 2000, again, please, send us an email, message us on Twitter. It's WeenCast podcast at Gmail, and the same thing at Twitter. It's at WeenCast podcast on Twitter. So if you have anything you want to say about the 420 show, please, please, please. Or if you just have anything you want to say in general about the show, or anything you'd like to hear or you don't want to hear, send us an email.
Yeah.
Hook us up.
It's we don't normally have this much lead in where we we really want to solicit your feedback or input ahead of the time, because it's like a shout out to all you guys that are listening, and like contributing is cool, because we definitely want to, like, if people were there and saw things that we didn't, we want to bring that into our story.
Yeah, we have some stuff already that I've gotten, and we thank those people, but we want to make sure everyone who has something to say about the 420 show gets in on it. You know what I mean? So we're trying to do it right the first time, and just let everyone know, like, if you were at the 420 show, like, we want to hear it, and we want to get it included in that episode. So please. But yeah, that's all I have.
And if you just want to tell us, and if you just want to comment on the show at the Philly Met, like, by all means, like, if you saw something or caught something that we didn't, or whatever, like had a different experience or viewpoint of something, or just chime in. We'd love to hear you guys.
Hit us up with anything about the Philly show, or
to add.
Whatever. Hit us up. And
whatever, dudes. Evs, dudes.
All right, Ween heads. So unless, Rory, you have anything else?
Nah, man, I'm good. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, it's at WeenCast Podcast on Twitter, and WeenCastPodcast at gmail.com. So hit us up. Until next time. Peace. Peace out. Thanks, everybody.